I wanted to welcome everybody. This is our September meeting of the Fallbrook Climate Action Team. And if you haven't joined us before, we're a group of individuals in Fallbrook mostly who get together once a month and listen to a speaker give us information about climate change in a myriad of different ways. And so tonight we're going to be welcoming Daniel Cox from the Avocado Growers Association or Growers Association. And before we start with him, I did want to tell you about our speaker next month, who is Mike Bullock, who's going to talk about the carb scoping plan, which will, which would, if we would follow the plan, get us to net zero by 2045 of carbon dioxide in California. So he'll explain what that program is about, what that plan is. And then I also wanted to tell you that Solana Center, an environmental organization, is going to be at the Fallbrook Library on the 18th of this month on Saturday from 2 to 4, talking about low water gardening with very little water, which is very apropos here. So you might want to check that out. So I'm going to introduce you to our speaker now. His name is Daniel Cox, and he's been farming avocados in Duluth for about 10 years, I believe, and he's retired or was previously in the Navy, and has a degree in psychology and law, and was a financial planner, and just has done quite a few things in his life, and now he's doing avocado farming. So, Daniel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Joy. Yes, my name is Dan Cox. I'm the chairman of the Avocado Growers of California. We're a nonprofit organization, 501c5 organization that we put together because there's a big threat of the sustainability of our ranches, mainly due to Mexican imports and other imports, but also due to climate change. And so I reached out and I saw your organization. And I thought this might be a good collaboration because one thing that is important that I think that we as farmers have to move towards is sustainability, not only financially but for the environment. The two go in to really meld together very much. So let me turn on my slides here, and everybody can see that okay. So so climate smart avocados and innovations for sustainable avocado production. And we're going to talk about the eco-friendly techniques in avocado farming. Overview, understanding climate smart agriculture in general, challenges in traditional avocado farming will be the next subject. Then climate smart practices for avocado cultivation and technological innovations and research in the farming industry, especially as they relate to avocados, and then the socio-economic and environmental impacts of avocados in the industry. So first, we'll talk about understanding this climate smart agriculture. Um, so sustainable productivity is really the focus now, not only for the well-being of Mother Earth, but also it turns out that we need to be sustainable financially more and more. And so we focus on increasing agricultural productivity. At the same time, we don't want to deplete our natural resources or harm the environment. So people think that fertilizers deplete the environment, but they really don't. And I'll tell you why. One reason is that fertilizers have made farmers become much more productive. Um, and by doing so, we're able to grow more food per acre and thus make better use of our land. And that means less clearing, etc. So, um, however, well, I can't, I need more light on my own notes here. Sorry, 1 second. However, oh yeah, however, if they're not used prudently, they can be leached and out of the soil and washed into our bays and oceans and rivers and cause pollution that way. So, one thing that we do as farmers is make sure that we are not applying any more uh, fertilizer than we need. Again, we're seeing that in this competitive environment, we have to pinch every dime. And so we do leaf analyses, we do leaf analysis, uh, um, and based on those analyses, we determine how much fertilizer we put on. I used to be completely conventional, um, and because I was skeptical about organic uh, farming. And so I took 1/4 of my grove and I started organically farming it. And it turned out that those trees all of a sudden started to look much better. They started to produce more fruit and I was making more money from it. So now my 22 acres is all organic. Um, and so one thing that we want to do is implement strategies to adapt and build resilience against the impacts of climate change. And there's several ways we do that. One is that we uh, reduce our water use as much as we can. Uh, but the biggest thing is we want to grow healthy trees. Healthy trees can resist a lot more than a sick tree. And we're finding that if you have a healthy soil and grow a healthy tree, that you're going to get more production and it'll withstand these shocks from our environment. As you all know, lately we've had big, as even mentioned earlier, that we had big heat waves, 115 at our ranch. I mean, I could smell the leaves burning on my trees. I could smell the leaves, and yes, it greatly impacted my production. So um, we are trying to find ways like that to adapt to the climate change. Um, and one thing that came up on my farm was how can I reduce my climate impact? Well, I have 22 acres um, with an average of 145 trees per acre. Um, but luckily, I have a well, and that well is powered by solar panels. So it's almost energy free water coming to my grove. That's a huge thing. Another thing we did was convert to micro sprinklers that are more efficient. Um, and there's other techniques that I'll be talking about later in the presentation. But so with my 22 acres, we sequester about 153,000 pounds of CO2 a year, which is equivalent to about 20 cars a year. Not a whole lot, but uh, it does make a positive impact rather than a negative impact. The global food system. So the whole system is really transforming these days, and uh, sustainable approaches reshape global food systems to meet future food demands effectively and responsibly. One thing we do is higher density planting. Now, my grove is old. It's actually not 10 years old, it's 21 years old. And at that time, no one was really talking, unfortunately, no one was really talking about global warming like they are today and the need to conserve water. So my trees are 15 by 20 feet. That's how they're planted. Nowadays, we're planting 12 by 12. My latest section is 12 by 12. That provides a lot of benefits. For one, it reflects more sun, so it has a cooling effect. I use less water. The nutrients are all right there, so I use less fertilizer, and I get more production per acre. Um, Avocado's popularity comes from their being nutrient packed. So I just recently read a study uh, by WOW, which is the World Organization of Avocados, kind of a European organization, and they found out that for the nutrient amount you receive from an avocado, it's much, even though they use a lot of water, the nutrients you receive for that gallon of water is very high. And so they're very efficient in that respect, especially when you compare it to things like meat or other other things that use a lot of water. Um, so one thing that we need to do is make sure that our groves stick around, because one thing that we all have to eat and we need food security. And if we're depending on imports from all over the world for our food, then what happens when relations break down and things like that? So uh, we're finding ways to, like the high density planting, to sustain our groves, even get more production, and then be able to compete with the imports. Um, Protecting environmental health obviously promotes practices that sustain soil, water, and biodiversity health for our future generations. Soil health is a major benefit I'm finding with organic farming. So, what are the benefits for farmers and their environment? Well, for one, we we have improved crop yields. It's amazing, as I told you, and this is anecdotal evidence, but it's true that I am getting more production in the part of my grove that I have been growing organically the longest. Uh, and This is especially true when considering the soil, because chemical fertilizers, and I didn't know this at the beginning, and as you may know or may not know, like nitrogen fertilizers are mainly produced from fossil fuels. And like 78% of nitrogen fertilizer is produced from natural gas. And the other 22% is produced from coal. Um, and so chemical fertilizers have an effect on detrimental effect on the microbial health of the soil. And the water efficiency is also reduced because these chemicals also seem to bind the soil in a way that it can't be uh, friable, which means it doesn't have a lot of pockets of air and clumps of soil. Believe it or not, the microbial life in the soil makes it that way. Sustainable farming methods reduce greenhouse emissions, contributing to climate change, and they mitigate climate change mitigation efforts. So one thing I wrote in my notes here, or I put there, is local versus import. The carbon footprint, obviously, of an imported avocado from Michoacan, Mexico, is going to be much larger than a local fruit. And it's gone 2,000 miles. Now they have made great advances in that respect, in that they load up huge loads on boats, which is a much more carbon safe, I guess you'd say, mode of transportation. But still, I mean, when you compare 2,000 miles to 20 miles, there's really no comparison. So practices to improve our soil quality and fertility, ensure long-term agricultural productivity and ecosystem balance. The new focus is on microbial health in the soil. So one of the big things that we're doing now is composting. There's, as you know, we all have our green waste trash cans, and those all go to a special area in the dump, and they create mulch and they create compost. And in case you don't know the difference, mulch is kind of a bigger pieces of torn up plant waste that cover the soil and keep in the water and reduce weed growth and things like that. Whereas compost is very minute and it is incorporated in the soil and increases the carbon content of the soil. So these things, though, one of the main things that the benefits from those is that they sequester carbon dioxide also. And one of my concerns when I looking back, one of my concerns was, wow, I tore out all this chaparral to plant avocados. Did I ruin a habitat that sequesters carbon? What's the balance there? Well, turns out I researched that, and avocados actually sequester about twice as much as a chaparral does. So that made me feel better. Another thing we do is we leach salts from our soil. That avocados are very sensitive to salt, and microbial life is also sensitive to salt. And by doing that, we're able to have a healthier soil, and the plants look much better. There's a couple of ways to do that. One is to add gypsum. So gypsum binds with the salt. Well, actually, I can't think right now. What is gypsum made of? Someone tell me. Drawing a blank. Anyway,
Yeah, I know. Is it
calcium.
lime?
It's calcium and sulfur. Calcium and sulfur. Sorry. And so the calcium binds with the sodium ions and making them leachable. And then when you water, they leach down out of the root zone of the soil. And by doing that, then of course the avocado plant doesn't absorb the sodium, and it's much healthier. And the other way is just to do a lot more watering once a month, about 20% more to flood it out. So I combined the two of those, and it's been a huge effect on my soil. Biodiversity preservation, protecting diverse species and habitats helps maintain ecosystem functions and resilience in farming areas. So one thing we have here is, and it was required for me to get my permit, is a riparian buffer. I have a creek that it's a seasonal creek, and they said you cannot clear anything between within 50 feet of either side of the creek. And so I did that, and I can see now why they wanted that. I was clueless when I started, but that acts as a corridor to all the animal life and all the species, and in the plants around the creek, the sycamores and the oaks and all the different brushes, they all act very importantly in maintaining the microbial life of the soil and also preventing erosion. So I can see why they did it, and I'm glad I did it now. So that's one thing. Agroforestry is another new method that a lot of farmers are implementing, and it basically means providing corridors like my riparian buffer, but maybe planting eucalyptus to prevent wind from blowing across your avocados, and composting, mulching, all these different things that come together and kind of make an ecosystem that really thrives. It's so different from when I started. When I started, we just cleared. Well, one thing I gotta pat my back on is when we cleared our land, we did not bulldoze it. We used a tractor, or actually a bobcat with this. It's like a barrel with teeth, and we ground the brush down, ground it down, and left the material there, and that acted as mulch, and it acted as fertilizer in over the years, and it's been a great thing for our soil. So whereas if you bulldoze, you're going to rip out the topsoil, and by doing so, that's basically killing, and you're releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So that was a good move. And also part of agroforestry is to act as make your ecosystem kind of act as a cooling effect. So studies have shown that avocado groves actually do have a cooling effect. So I don't know why that goes blank when I do that, but now we're going to talk about the challenges in traditional avocado farming. Oh, water usage is number one, that's for sure. One of the avocado farming requires significant water. Is that, hang on one second. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So avocado farming requires significant water. And there's been increasing pressure on local water supplies. I don't know if you guys know it, but our water bills did not go up this last time, and that's because we separated from the San Diego Water Authority. Paula and I, Paula's on Zoom with me, but we advocated for that, went down, and luckily we were successful in that. They're talking about big time increases in water, even though, believe it or not, they have an oversupply of water, but they have undersupply of money. So they've built all this infrastructure and they can't pay for it. But that's kind of digressing. I'm sorry, but it's still a worthy cause, as I said. Even though avocados use a lot of water, their nutrient to water ratio is very good. And as you also might know, Fallbrook's if you're on the FPUD, we're in a unique situation also in that we have that joint water project with Camp Pendleton. And they are now, after 60 years of litigation, they finally were able to work out a deal, and we are now getting up to 80% of our water from the Santa Margarita River. So that's a good, useful use of resources, and I think good for our environment. So one of the things, though, is that when I started, pour irrigation was kind of the practice. We really didn't care. Even though water cost money, it was nowhere near the ratio it is today. Today, I would say 40 to 50%, no, much more than that, 60 to 80% of our overhead, of the average farmer's overhead, not mine, because I have a solar powered well, is from water. And so what do we have? So necessity is the mother of invention. And now we have all these new devices that help us make sure we're not using one more drop of water than we need to. Those are like soil sensors, drip irrigation, micro sprinklers, and overhead sprinklers. So soil sensors are great. They measure the amount of water in the soil, and we all determine exactly how much water our avocado growers need, and we stick to that.
They do that.
Hmm?
Water sensor.
Yeah.
It's too.
Yeah, that's the soil they're soil sensors they're called, but they measure water. And so they also will tell you when there's a leak or if your irrigation program or irrigation system has broken down. Matter of fact, one time Paula and I were in Ireland, and I was checking. I could check online. This was years ago when it first started out, and I noticed that my my sprinklers were on, but my soil sensors weren't showing it. And actually the meter that shows gallons per minute. And I was able to call up somebody, and they came out and changed the fuse, and that was it. So it's a great new world. Drip irrigation isn't really that popular in avocados, but it is being more used more and more. Mainly we use micro sprinklers, which give a fine spray in a limited area.
After 20 years.
Have you?
30 some.
Yeah, micro sprinklers. Yeah. And overhead sprinklers are a brand new thing. And this is for those 112 to 115 degree days where there's nothing you can do. You can put on all the water in the world and it's not going to help the tree. Well, now there's these overhead sprinklers that produce a pulsating spray over the avocados, and they will pulse every second, and they use very little water, and they drop temperatures as much as 15 degrees. So I have not implemented that. Some farmers have. I've gone out to the farms, and I've brought our group, the AGC, Avocado Growers of California, out there, and you could see it is very effective. So that's one way we're battling climate change as avocado growers. So anyway, obviously, efficient water management is crucial to sustaining avocado cultivation and preserving our local resources. Pest and disease pressures. So we have pests, and they all have come from Mexico. One is called thrips, and you can see these fruit in the slide. Those have been affected by thrips. Thrips is a little tiny bug that gnaws on the fruit when it's very small, less than a quarter inch, and they'll only chew on a little bit. But as the fruit grows, the scar that is made by their chewing grows with the avocado, and that's why you see fruit that looks like that. And these fruit you can't sell in the supermarket because people think that they're bad, and but you can sell them to restaurants and such because they know there's no difference. It's just a cosmetic difference. Also, we have persea mite, which causes leaf drop, and then there's a new. One second. There's a new pest that is a definite risk. It grows in. It's prevalent in Guatemala, where the USDA has said we're going to okay imports from there. So now we got to really worry about this new pest. It's called the stem weevil, and it bores into the trees and makes tunnels throughout the tree, killing the branches in the trees, and eventually completely destroys the trees. So it kills trees. And we're doing everything we can through AGC and the California Avocado Commission to prevent avocados from coming in with that new stem weevil. We also have chemical control challenges. Spraying really is our last resort here on this ranch, at least. We try to use beneficials. Some of them, I forget the name of the exact bug, but it roams around and eats up avocado thrips larvae. But they only go so far. They can only suppress, they can't stop. And these predatory thrips are only beginning, and can only hope that they're enough. But I have an entomologist, he comes out and he checks it, and if he feels that we need to spray, we do spray. Now, since I'm organic, I'm limited to the kinds of things I can spray. It's oil and other organic compounds that do work. But once again, this is new pet, or this is a way we fight our pests in organic growth. It's more expensive, and you got to hire a helicopter, and we try and avoid that as much as possible. We have integrated pest management strategies, balance the control methods to sustainably protect avocado crops. Once again, though, the main thing is to control the pests so you have a healthy tree, and in that way you can have trees that can withstand the climate change impacts. Soil health and agroforestry techniques I've touched on already, but mulching is one of the great benefits. So there are many new programs out there. It's gotten really big to utilize all this green waste in the dumps. And so now there are grants available for us farmers to get that mulch to our farms, and they will pay for most of the cost in getting it delivered to our farms. We usually have to pay to spread it. And what mulching does is it conserves the soil moisture, it suppresses weeds, and it reduces erosion. Also, we have grants that help us bring in compost. And as I said before, the compost combined with the soil and making it a much healthier soil that can retain water better and increasing its organic matter, which also increases the microbial life, and really it creates a tremendous micro ecosystem. And that's very important for avocados, because avocados, their roots are very different from most plants in that they don't have those little microscopic hairs. They have a few, but very few. And so they depend on the microbial life to convert these binded ions or molecules so that the nutrients will be released and are able to be taken up by the roots of the avocado tree. Another thing we do here at this ranch is we try not to cut down trees such as oaks or sycamores. We want those to grow. We think it adds to the biodiversity and it adds to the microbial life in the soil, creates shade in those hot days. And so that's part of the agroforestry that I was talking about before. And we don't spray our weeds. We weed whack them. I have not cover cropped. We don't really need to cover crop because we're not a row crop. And so there's really no place for the cover crop to grow. But the weeds, you just weed whack and let the material lay there. So technological innovations in research. There are some resilient avocado varieties. For instance, there's the gem and the lamb Hass. These both are a little bit different from the regular Hass avocados in that they grow their avocados under more inside of the plant. And that protects them from sun scorching and extreme heat that we can see. It also, they tend to produce more or larger fruit that hangs on better. So that's a promising area, even though lamb Hass has been around. Both of those varieties have been around forever. The other part about avocado farming is you look for those avocado trees that are rootstocks. So the way avocados are sold to us is in kind of a combined two-part. You have a rootstock, and then you have the scion that is grafted onto the rootstock. And through research at UC Riverside, they found, and through the California Avocado Commission, they found that certain rootstocks are able to resist saline, soil, and also Phytophthora. Phytophthora is your root rot. It's been a big problem for avocado trees, but now with these new rootstocks, we're able to survive Phytophthora. So climate resilient avocados are just kind of getting popular. People are really stuck on your basic Hass avocado. And by the way, it is pronounced Hass, not Haas. All avocado trees, all Hass avocados have all come, I don't know if you know this, they've all come from one avocado tree that was in La Habra Heights back in the 20s. And it was the mother tree. And it's an interesting story. I won't get into it for time purposes, but they were grafted. And now all the avocados in the world that are Hass came from that one tree. Okay. And as I said before, we're starting to use overhead sprinklers to battle the extreme heat. So the UC Riverside, the USDA, the CDFA, and private foundations have been critical in all the advances we've made to adjust for the climate changes. Like I said before, we're now getting grants for the mulch and compost. We're also getting grants to start. We can tear out an old avocado grove and change it from regular density to high density. We'll switch varieties from the old kind to the new water water, the ones that don't need as much water. And so they have been a big effort. or they've made a big effort into supporting our farms. And it's really appreciated. So one organization, a little plug here, is the Avocado Growers of California, AGC, and we help our farmers get these grants that I've been talking about and adapt climate smart practices to improve their sustainability and their productivity. Socioeconomic impacts, well, one thing, when you buy a local avocado, it's usually more sustainably farmed than you'll find anywhere else in the world. We have a lot of restrictions and programs and protocols we got to follow, such as food safety and the exact fertilizers we can use and the spraying techniques we can use. And we are using wasted resources as in mulch. So remember though that when you buy local fruit, it not only you get it fresher, you get it with less carbon impact, but it's also improving our economic society because, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you know it, but San Diego County has more small farms than any other county in the country. And it's an important part of it, but now we're finding it's harder and harder to do. So adopting sustainable methods improves farmers' ability to withstand environmental and economic challenges. Sustainable agriculture improves our income, our food availability. I mean, we all have to eat, and it's important that we continue to have a stable local supply of food. And fortunately, the County of San Diego believes that's true too. And at the same time, at least the organic farmers are really improving our ecology. We're reducing our input on the environment by conserving water, substituting chemical inputs with organic inputs, minimizing pesticides and fertilizers. As I said, we do leaf analyses and soil analyses, so we know exactly what we need and where to put it at the right place, at the right time, the right amount. And I really feel strongly that the main reason this is happening, that organic growing helps not only our environment and thus mitigating climate change and the impacts of it, but also it improves our soils so that our trees grow better, healthier, and produce more fruit. I'll skip through this because we talked about food security as being important, but imports are kind of a food security threat. We need to focus more on our local fruits, our local farmers, support our local farmers. And now one of the main drawbacks with local Paso avocados is they were seasonal, very seasonal. Now we have these other varieties and we're being able to grow them year round. I don't know if you've heard it, but there's a big cartel influence on the Mexican avocados. They interfere with their farmers. There's an organization that you might really want to look into. It's called Climate Strikes International. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but they have made leaps and bounds as far as controlling illegal deforestation. At one point, they had cleared in Mexico, they had cleared so much forest that it equated to our entire avocado groves in California. And now, finally, because of this organization and help from 5 senators and a lot of other things, they are finally, the governor of Michoacan has started a program that will label avocados that will assure avocados coming from Mexico are not from illegally deforested land. It's not completely in effect right now. It's going to take 5 years, but after 5 years, we hope that there will be no more illegal deforestation. And not only affects the environment, but it also affects people that live there. They were clearing out forests that would act to bring up water from deep in the earth, and now they have very little water to, and then they put in the avocados, which suck up a lot of water, and now they're very short on water in a lot of places. They're taking the cartels are taking over towns. It's a mess now. Anyway, so that's my presentation. Please look for California avocados in your supermarket. We're trying to make a big effort to make them very obvious. It's better for the environment, it's better for our local economy, and it's better for you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Daniel. We have a bunch of questions. If you
Okay.
would like to stop sharing your screen, we
Sure.
can see how
Okay.
many of
I
these
hope I
questions
can answer these questions.
we can tackle.
Yeah.
Harriet, I know you had a question way at the beginning. Do you want to ask your first question?
I have so many questions. I am full of questions as always.
Good.
Um, you said that you used compost and that you also used gypsum. Do you do any other form of organic fertilizer? Again, I have a couple of trees and I'm just curious because I grow all organically. So,
Good.
you know, so I was just wondering if if you did use any other kinds of fertilizer.
Yeah, we use nothing but organic fertilizer. So for instance, there's a company called True Organics, and they supply most of our avocados. I mean, most of our fertilizers. So what you do is you can either get it in liquid form or you can get it in pellet form. The pellet form is much more cost effective for big production, but and they'll give the regular nitrogen, potassium, or phosphate potassium, NPK, and they'll show you like a 10, 5, 10. That means 10% nitrogen, 5% phosphate, 10% potassium. So there's a lot of different fertilizers available out there. I would just caution you on not buying all the snake oil salesmen out there with some of their stuff. But yeah, basic organic fertilizers work great. And they take a little longer. I used to dump what was called UM32, which is 32% nitrogen, fertilizer derived from fossil fuels when I was conventional. And I just dumped that on and thought, oh, that's great. It's cheap. Well, it turns out that stuff kills the microbial life in your soil. And that's very critical for avocados because, as you may recall, the avocado roots need the microbials to make the nutrients available to our special roots.
My other comment at the top was just a note that that on the front page of the Union Tribune a day or two ago was about how San Diego was going to raise their water rates by 60% over 4 years, and it's just it's insane. And I am so glad that we have separated from them, because we're talking about like 3 or 2.5 or 3.5% increase in water rates,
right.
and they're talking about 60% over
They
4
are.
years. It's insane. So
that's 60% after they increased it 12 and 15% the prior 2 years.
yes, I mean, on top of already high
Yes.
rates. So anyways,
Yeah, thank you. We worked hard to get the separation. What they did was, they built that desalinization plant. They built a lot of infrastructure, projecting that demand would go up over the years. Well, demand has gone down. We learned how to be efficient with our water, especially the farmers. And so now they've got the infrastructure for a higher demand, but with lower demand and the bill to pay for that higher infrastructure.
What I also don't understand is avocado farms actually use a fair bit of water, and yet because water is so expensive, avocado farms are stumping their trees and abandoning their groves because it's just no longer cost effective, and it practically kills me. I mean, I'm a farmer from way back, and it's insane.
It's depressing seeing all these dead trees. I mean, when we bought our ranch, it was nothing but green, thick avocado groves everywhere, and now they're all dead. They're all dead. Terrible.
Deanna, you want to ask your first question?
You're muted. Deanna, can't hear you.
Well, I'll ask it for her. Which micro sprinklers and soil sensors do you use? And how do you keep them from being broken from people and coyotes?
Oh, okay. Well, the micro sprinklers, I used to use Toro. Now I use a different one, Nelson. And actually, I found that the Nelsons are much better. They throw off water in a bigger radius and bigger drops, which enable the water to penetrate soil better. And then for the soil sensors, there's a myriad of companies out there. I've still got this old. I'm going to be switching over soon. I'm researching them now, and if you'd like to know what I'm looking at, I'd be happy to share that with you. But it was called HoboLink. One of the main things I liked about them was that there was no subscription fee. Now I think all of them have subscription fees. I'm trying to find one that doesn't. But basically, what those soil sensors do is they measure the amount of water by electric current, and then they will feed that information through to a data logger that you can connect with over the internet. And like I said, you can be in Ireland and see what the heck's going on. So as far as them being destroyed, not really a problem because the sensor is buried in the ground. There is a wire, but it runs up a PVC pole to a radio transmitter, and it is above the above where a coyote could get it. But I've never had a soil sensor destroyed by an animal, gopher, coyote, anything. They usually just go for the water pipes.
Yeah, our sprinkler heads get broken from coyotes because they're,
Really?
drinking the water and biting it, and or workers,
Yeah.
they're weed whacking the grove, and then
That's the main enemy. Yep.
yeah. So what did you call the new sensor that you
It's called a Nelson S7, I believe it's called. Oh, the
the
new.
yeah, the
Oh,
Nelson S7, but then the sensor, what did you call that one?
It's a company called HoboLink.
Obolink?
HOBOLINK.
Okay. Okay.
But see, they were there at the beginning, and that's why I went with them. And they're mainly involved in research institutes, so they're kind of expensive. So I would look around.
Okay. Okay.
But Deanna, if you want, because I am researching that for my own farm right now, and I'd be happy to let you know what I find.
Okay. Can I ask the other questions I have?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. You said that in the beginning, when we started, they said, oh, you need this big space for the trees. So we started cutting down some trees. Now you say it's 12 by 12 space?
That's what we did with our last 200 trees that we planted, 12 by 12. So they are really doing very well. You use less water because you can reduce the amount that the emitter produces because they're close together. Then the emitters overlap.
Yeah.
The spray overlaps, and also because they're close together, they produce more shade on the ground, which helps in evaporation. They the leaf litter gets thicker and closer. You don't need any cover crops whatsoever. And the fertilizer is more efficient too. So all those things make sense. The downside though is that you do have to control the growth so that they don't overgrow each other. And that's more labor.
Is it okay to plant new trees among the ones that you haven't, that have a bigger space that you haven't trimmed
Yes.
down yet? That's okay?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how tall do you keep your trees?
Below 15 feet is optimal. Some of my trees are much taller than that, and I've been negligent doing that trimming. But a lot of, like in Chile, they keep them at like 7 or 8 feet.
Oh,
So,
okay.
And
Okay.
so there's different techniques. There's been studies, and they're kind of inconclusive as to whether you get more production by trimming a lot. So I haven't been convinced that that really works, but a lot of people swear by it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and also they have to be watered more frequently, the new trees, because they're younger and it's less water. So how do
More
you manage
frequently
that?
and less. That's correct.
How do
So
you
that's why it's
manage?
important to have a soil sensor so you know what's going on.
Then you would have to manually turn it off or
Oh,
have it
I've nothing.
automated.
Yeah, it's
But
all automated here in my range. Yes.
it is automated.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. Um,
Lori had a
uh,
Well,
question.
the on and off is not automated. In other words, I don't have to go and turn a valve, but I just check them every day. And I know what to do. I don't think I can trust automation for my trees.
okay,
Now,
okay.
I take it back though. I do have a regular schedule that they're watered. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we have the
But
same.
the soil sensors will tell you, hey, you're watering too much, too little. I mean, like right now, it's cooled down dramatically, so you're cutting back on your water. So
Yeah, okay.
the soil sensors will show that.
If I could just
Okay.
interject a little comment, a question about a trimming. I had the fire prevention people come through, and my avocado tree, basically its branches draped down to the ground. And the fire prevention lady said I needed to trim that up. I have got mulch underneath the tree, but she said I needed to trim the branches up from the ground so that if there was a fire, the fire wouldn't basically because the branches were too low, if there was a fire, then the mulch would catch on fire and then the tree would catch on fire.
Right.
So is that your experience? I mean, do you trim your trees up from the ground or do you let them go down to the ground?
I let them pretty much go to the ground because those branches block the wind from blowing away your mulch. And you need that mulch more than anything. So, no, I don't.
Message is received from Walt Stein.
What was that? So
Okay.
yeah, it's important to I'm if it's right next to your house, and that's probably good advice. But my grove is away from my house, so I don't have to worry about that.
So
And
we
by the
need,
way, groves act as a fire barrier. They're not. That's another advantage of the avocado groves here in San Diego County.
so Lori had a question and then Janet.
Okay. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Lori.
Yeah, Daniel, I had several questions, and they're basically about amendments or sprays. You talked about spraying oil on the trees. Is that neem oil?
I'd have to look at. I don't know. I rely on my entomologists for that.
Oh, okay.
Omega oil. Does that sound familiar? Omega oil.
What was that?
Anyway, omega oil. Does that sound?
Omega.
Yeah, I think that seems to come to mind. I could get
Neem
back to
oil
you.
is used for pesticides. I mean, for pests, insects.
Yeah. I think it's more just as a medium to spread the main chemical you're putting on. Instead of,
So I'm
but
also
but
wondering,
also,
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm also wondering, do you put lime on your soil to break it down? Or is that not
No,
needed for a DG?
no, I mean, lime is mainly to buffer pH. And so I haven't had a need for that. My pH is 6.3. It's been that way and stable. Um, uh, that's so no, I have never used lime. Um, Even though my last soil report did say to add some lime to buffer the soil pH.
Okay, I had a couple more questions, so I'll make them quick.
Yeah.
First was a piggyback on the drip irrigation, which I've used a lot of, and it's just a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
So it looks like in the picture, if that's your farm, that you use the larger tubes, and then you have the just the drip little
Emitter?
deals that you just stick into the hose like the 10 gallon emitter.
Yeah, so I don't use drip irrigation. Uh, I also grow eucalyptus. I use it on that. But for my grows, I use micro sprinklers. But
Micro
there are,
sprinkler.
yeah, micro sprinklers. Yeah.
Yeah, I've used those and they're really if they get debris in them, they're almost useless.
Well, which kind do you have?
Well, just the Home Depot stuff.
Yeah. So that's Toro, probably. I mean, I had Toro for almost 20 years, and now I've switched to Nelson, and they clog with much less. They're much more expensive, but it was kind of like a present to myself, so I wouldn't have to go around
Yeah.
clearing these sprinkler heads all the time, you know. But you're right, yeah, they're a pain.
Okay, my last question. I've heard that there's a lot of theft on farms,
Mhm.
and I was wondering if you could speak to that.
I used to worry about it a lot, and then I realized that it's probably, I don't know. I thought about setting up cameras and all this, and I have never done it. I don't think I've had it, but we're kind of isolated. We're a long ways away. Well, not a long ways. We're 10 miles or more like 7 miles from town. And I think people will go and closer ones that are more accessible that they know about. Like our closest road is Duluth Heights Road, and they don't go into these. You have to take a road to get to our farm. In other words, there's a big passageway to get through, so I don't have to worry about it. I have neighbors that I trust that keep an eye out too, and they also help me farm it. So I think we're okay there. But yeah, that was a big concern. That'd keep me up at night
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
because there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can set up cameras or whatever, but I don't know. They hardly ever catch anybody.
Well, I
Alrighty.
think, thanks. I think Janet had a more or less a comment. Um,
Yeah, not necessarily a question, but just a link for a resource in San Diego County, which is really helpful. It's called Resource Conservation District, and it's just a
yeah.
wealth of information needed, and they can guide you to where the grants are for funding for all kinds of things. So if you want to start doing some organic gardening, I just went to a conference last Friday with UC Organic something or another. And they were talking about all kinds of grants. They had all kinds of people there. So, but the Resource Conservation District is like the key that can give you all kinds of information regarding everything, regarding growing. So,
Yes,
just
you're
a
right,
link.
Janet. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
mentioning. I used to be on the board of the Mission Resource Conservation District.
Yes.
And one of the main things that, we'd have this funding, but we couldn't find people to get the grants. And AGC has helped a lot. We've helped a lot of people make that connection. And literally, they've received over $100,000 in grants, some people.
Yeah.
It's
There's lots of
amazing.
money out there to be had. You gotta
Yeah.
know where to get them. Yeah.
Yep.
And there was one for soils that just closed a couple days ago, unfortunately. I was going to link that one to you guys, but that just closed. But they do it on an annual basis. But the Resource Conservation District will have maybe other ones that are out there that are available for soil and compost, mulch, all the
Right.
good things. Yeah.
The big drive right now is the mulch and the compost.
Yes. Key.
Trying to get rid of it out of their dumps. And there's actually a mandate to get rid of 35% of all green waste onto farms. I think it's 35.
Yeah, and Solana Center is a good resource too for residential staff, even farming for composting. They offer classes. In fact, there's a Stagecoach Sunday coming up this Sunday at the Palomares House, and they're going to be there talking about composting, so you can check them out if you like.
Oh, good. What's the name of that organization?
Solana
Solana
Center.
Center.
And Harriet mentioned that they will have a booth at the farmers market this Saturday,
Oh, okay, good.
as well
Yeah.
as being at the library on the 18th. from
Yeah,
2
they're
to
all
4.
over the community. It's a great thing.
So we want to thank you very much. You've
Thank you.
been very informative, and we'll have to stay in touch.
And just spread the word to buy California avocados.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Is the best way to find, because I noticed that Albertsons has a lot of Mexican avocados. Is the best what's the best source in Fallbrook for local avocados?
Well, I mean, all supermarkets carry them in season, but they mix them. They mix them with the
Mhm.
Peruvian, the Mexican, Colombian, and people, they don't even know how to look for them. Paula and I were at the San Diego Fair a couple of years ago promoting California avocados, and they go, "Well, where do you get them?" And I said, "They're in your supermarket." "Oh, how do you know?" "Well, there's that little label, that little
Yeah.
label on the fruit,
Yes.
and it's just like no one looks at that. I'm trying to get the California Avocado Commission to make it much more obvious,
Mhm.
and have them segregated.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, well, I'm not going to get into politics.
Yeah, maybe we could lobby our local grocery stores to
That's a
not
good-
segregate them and put a little sign
Yeah,
that says local
Yes.
California avocados or Fallbrook avocados.
I mean, I was in Albertsons and I go and I look at their large avocados as I always do. And there was everything mixed together. And there was and they call it large Hass, and they're like caramel avocados, which are not even Hass mixed
Mm.
in. And they're coming from Peru, and Peru's just sending whatever they want up here, and no one's inspecting it. And like I grow lamb Hass as well as Hass. In my lamb Hass, I get 20% less. They get full price.
Mm.
Actually,
Not fair.
I've been in Major Market a fair number of times, and they do mark stuff that is local. That is, they have bins that are local avocados and local produce of different kinds.
That's exactly right. And they get their
Mhm.
avocados from Delray, and that's why Delray does a good job. I pack with Delray. They do a good job making sure that that's done.
Okay, well, we should respect everybody's time and
Yes.
close the meeting, and we'll have this on YouTube in a week or so. Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you, everybody. I apologize for not being available last night. It was beyond my control, but thanks for joining the meeting. Thanks for inviting.